What's up, guys? Tanner here, and this episode is a special episode from the Routimize launch party. So tune in. You're going to love the value shared by this presenter. And don't forget, check out Routimize. Routimize is live now. So go to routimize.com, ROUTEMIZE.com, and you can get a 14-day free trial of this amazing software that helps your customers instant book with you, of course, with route optimization built in. So if you're tired of the back and forth, if you have a VA running your business from the office and they don't quite know your landscape of where you live versus where you're going to be, and scheduling is a nightmare, Routimize solves that problem and makes it easy. But enjoy this presentation from the Routimize launch party. Thanks again for listening to the Contractor Secrets podcast. Austin Hauser's coming up next, guys. It's a great friend of mine. His company runs our SEO. We're the number one ranked listing for our area. He's a wealth of information. He has a powerful story of, I don't know if he'll drop that today, but this guy's a fighter, and just love everything about what Austin does and how he serves the community. So without further ado, go ahead, Austin, take it away, brother.
Right on, guys. Ted, are you able to hear me okay?
Yep, good to go, man.
All right. And finally, can you guys see my screen okay?
Sure can.
Let's do it. All right, guys. First of all, big shout out to Tanner. This is not going to be your typical speech, so you don't want to miss this one. Quick 30-second intro. For those of you who have not heard my voice before, my name is Austin Hauser. I'm a husband, father of 2 young men, and chief brainiac over here at Base Coat Marketing. And I'm pleased to be a part of today's product launch because we've seen some incredible results from our clients using Routimize. Seriously, if we have any Base Coat brainiacs on this call today, please go sign up. You'll make our job easy. But today, guys, I'm going to flip the script. I'm not here to talk to you about marketing. You're going to hear from like 4 to 5 other marketers throughout this event. So to avoid a dead horse, and since most of you are actually probably not a good fit for our programs anyways, this is likely going to be the only speech you hear today without a hard sales pitch. Truly, I'm only here to add value. If you want to learn more about what we do, just go to basecoatmarketing.com. Otherwise, today, while we're on the theme of solving problems like Routimize, if you listen in over the next 30 minutes, you're going to walk away with the ability to solve any challenge in your life or your business forever, and you're going to do it with a smile. This is going to be fun. Let's jump in, guys. So first, I have a favor to ask all of you. I want you to think back to a time when you were confronted with a problem and you didn't have the answers. It could be a problem in your life or your business. It could be a recent problem or something that came up years ago. But for dramatic purposes, let's make it a big problem. A problem that came out of left field. You didn't see this coming. You lost some sleep over this problem. Made you sweat a little. Please throw an emoji in the comments if you have that problem seared into your mind. I'm going to ask for some engagement here today, guys. Okay. Now, this might be painful for some of you, but for the sake of this exercise, I want you to pretend that this is a problem at your doorstep. Without hesitation, think of the first emotion that comes to mind. How did that problem make you feel in that moment? For most of us, when we're presented with a problem, we experience an emotion. And I would argue that that first emotion is typically fear. It's the fear of failure, the fear of rejection, the fear that we're not good enough to solve that problem. You know, like, who enjoys feeling like we're not good enough? Like, I would argue that no one does, because we're all human and we're social creatures. But what if there was a way to set yourself up? So even on your worst day, when we're facing a problem so big that the average human would go cry in the closet, that you still show up with a smile and you mean it. And I'm not talking about participation trophies here. Like, can you imagine competing against someone who couldn't lose? How much energy would that take? The answer is more energy than you have in a lifetime. You will lose that battle. So guys, today, I'm going to give you all a competitive advantage. I'd like to give you a set of tools that'll give you the mental fortitude and intelligence to win every battle in your life or business. Throw an emoji in the comments, please, if you are ready to solve bigger problems better and faster. Great. But first, we need to overcome that fear of failure, right? And to do this, I'm going to tell you a quick story. And look, guys, I'm not going to tell you this story to motivate, impress, or inspire you. I'm going to tell you this story in hopes that it'll elicit a change in your perspective, your beliefs, your mindset. But to tell you this story, I need to take you back in time to Saturday, May 16th, 2022, just over 4 years ago. I'd rather die than be a burden. Have you ever felt like your family, your business, your team, that they depend on you showing up every day? That weight, that responsibility is something that entrepreneurs like us carry that most people will never understand. For most of us, we live with the assumption that tomorrow is going to look a lot like today. We believe, and again, especially as business owners, that we're in control. I get it. I know that feeling well. Because for me, that belief changed in an instant. March 28th, 2022, the day of my 34th birthday, the day I was diagnosed with a 1.5 centimeter brain tumor growing on my auditory nerve next to my brainstem. It was in this moment that all the certainty that I had in my life was gone. Because with all of the medical technology living in the most advanced country on earth, I only had one logical option: brain surgery. Everything I'd been planning for, everything I had assumed about my future, was no longer guaranteed. And when you're not certain about tomorrow, you react. Your mind goes to one place, to losing the things you care about most. My wife, my boys, my team, our clients. What happens to them if I can't work? What happens to the business if I'm not there to lead it? What happens if the person they depend on most suddenly can't carry the weight anymore? This was a problem, and the solution was not in my control. But I still felt like I was failing them. I felt like a failure. Which brings us back to this moment. 3 days before brain surgery, I was standing in the kitchen, talking to my wife. We had just put our two boys to bed, who were 3 and 6 years old at the time. And it's funny, I had considered the consequences of brain surgery. I had accepted death. I wasn't afraid of that. But the one thing I hadn't considered is coming back someone less capable than the person I was today, and the burden that that would put on my family. So I uttered these words from a shallow place of fear and uncertainty, because for me, the hardest part wasn't the diagnosis. Hell, it wasn't even the surgery. It was the uncertainty. This one word can move a stock market. How painful will this be? How long will it last? Will I be able to recover? You guys, we're all simply afraid of the unknown. And when you don't know how to solve a problem, it can become extremely uncomfortable. It feels like your freedom is being ripped away, right? And that's because, again, especially as us, we're entrepreneurs, guys, we're inherently problem solvers. But here's the catch. Failure is a requirement for success. Crazy, right? But if failing is required to succeed and problems are all but guaranteed, why do we react? It's natural, but when we react, we are faced with resistance. It's like pulling on your seatbelt too hard. When we dwell on our problems and think about the what ifs or the should have haves, we fundamentally make it worse. So how do we overcome this gut reaction of resistance? Where do we start? Step 1. To solve any problem with a smile, we must accept the fact that we have a problem. How we arrived at that problem isn't important yet. We must turn fear, reaction, and resistance into something we control, and we can't control the past. And if we truly want to embrace challenges, we must accept a few facts of life, guys. Life is going to be hard, it's not going to be fair, and you're going to suffer along the way. I mean, that doesn't sound fun, right? But here's some good news. The pain we experience in our life or business, that is the way. It means you're on the right path. And the sooner you can accept this, the sooner we can recognize problems for what they are. They're an opportunity. They're part of your story. And every hero of every story must go on a journey. And that journey is typically full of fucking pain, but there is no other way. Guys, like, can you imagine going to see a movie where the main character just scrolls on his phone the whole time? No, that's not living. Life is messy and it's not easy and it sure as shit ain't fair. And if you truly accept these facts of life, we just need to understand one simple math equation. Guys, write this down. Success is 90% mindset, 10% skill set. Great. But here's a problem. Your mind is not designed to make you happy. It's designed to keep you alive. So every time we confront a new problem, we are fighting an internal battle inside of us. And it's a fight we will lose unless we understand the enemy. And the enemy is our chimp brain, otherwise known as our fight or flight response. You know, that release of cortisol you feel when something's going wrong. It's the worry that keeps you up at night. That's your chimp brain. And that chimp is 10 times stronger than your logical human brain. So instead of reacting and resisting this animal, we just need to audibly call it out for what it is. You guys are having a biological reaction. That's it. When your brain chemistry changes, your chimp brain takes over because you're interpreting a problem as a threat. Now, your chimp brain will always start with the same gut reaction, but it's our job as a logical human to go take charge. So the next time we face a problem, instead of losing sleep and taking days to overcome that fight or flight response, we want to try getting back to that baseline operating level within a few hours, or maybe a few minutes, or maybe just a few seconds. Now, I'm telling you to do this, but this is like me telling you how to swing a golf club. As Mike Tyson says, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face, right? So how can we overcome this reaction? Well, we practice. I do this weird thing called cold plunging. I wake up every day around 4:30 in the morning. I get out of my warm, cozy bed, my wife next to me, put on my swim trunks, and I brush my teeth in front of the mirror, shivering. I walk outside, the stars are still out, the sky is still dark, and I slowly lower my body into 40-degree water for about 5 minutes. And look, there are some physical benefits to doing this, but I primarily do this to benefit my mind. And I have a mantra I say every time before I step in that water. No negotiations. And then I intentionally put my body through a few minutes of physical pain. But what I'm really doing here is I'm training my chimp brain to go sit in the corner while I handle shit. This is like going to the gym. Your mind is a muscle and it requires training. But after enough reps, the outcome is clear. I do not lose sleep over problems anymore. I give my chimp brain 60 seconds to go pound and scream and lose his shit, and then I take charge. And this doesn't require a cold plunge, but it does require courage. The courage to voluntarily stress your mind so you can practice taking control. So for example, this can be as simple as trying something new, like a fitness class where you're the clear beginner. Guys, I just started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu a few months ago. Last week, I had a kid half my age choke me out on the mat. Okay? Go take a cold shower, but like a really cold shower. Or go confront a fear, like calling all of your unhappy customers every day. Some of you may not like the thought of self-induced pain, but we're not here to negotiate, are we? So guys, I want you all to take 10 seconds. And I want you to write down one thing you're going to do daily to practice taking control of your chimp brain. 10 seconds, don't overthink this. Make it something easy enough that you can commit to every day, but hard enough that the initial reaction is fear or resistance. This is how we practice remaining calm under pressure. Also, please make sure it's something safe and practical. I once had a guy tell me from stage that he was going to practice by running across the highway next to his house. Like, human Frogger is not the acceptable answer here. Okay. Now, we're all committed to getting uncomfortable daily so we can practice taking control. So the next time we face down a problem, we're going to replace panic and fear with acceptance of that opportunity. But we still have a problem. So now what? Well, next we need to identify the problem. More specifically, to solve a problem, we need to identify what type of problem we're dealing with. Fortunately, there are only 3 types of problems. The first type of problem is what we call a normal problem. You've seen this before, you have a process to solve it. In life, this is equivalent to dropping an egg on the floor while you're making breakfast. In business, this might be like dealing with an unhappy customer. Like in business, these problems typically take time and resources to solve, but they're generally something that your team can handle without your input, so it's not your time. The second type of problem is what we call an abnormal problem. This is something you haven't seen before or maybe doesn't come up as often. This creates a high level of uncertainty. We typically make these out to be much worse than they actually are. So in life, as an example, this is equivalent to a fender bender or a minor car accident. In business, this could be like a key team member quitting without notice. These problems will require your time and attention. They might be painful to resolve, but every abnormal problem can become a normal problem. Now, before I introduce the third type of problem, I'd like to take a moment to talk about the concept of peacetime and wartime. In life or business, there are times we're presented with problems that make us feel like we are at war. Many problems, especially abnormal problems, feel this way. They're new. The outcome feels uncertain. But at the end of the day, they're just normal problems masquerading as an abnormal problem. So the first two types of problems are what we consider peacetime problems. These are what you will encounter about 99% of the time. Okay? Now, for the third type of problem, extinction level problems. These don't come up as often. You may only see a problem like this once every 3 to 5 years, but when, not if, but when they hit, nothing else is more important than solving that problem. In life, this is equivalent to a cancer diagnosis. In business, this would be a lawsuit that could bankrupt the company. You are at war. Your survival depends on your ability to overcome this challenge. I love this quote by Jim Rohn. Don't wish life were easy, wish you were stronger. Now, wartime problems can feel big and scary and overwhelming. But for some good news, most wartime problems can turn into peacetime problems with the right people and the right mindset. And again, most of the time, you're going to be living in a peacetime environment anyways, because even the bloodiest of conflicts, they all come to an end. The secret is to prepare for war because it will inevitably come, but we all want to enjoy the fruits of our labor while we're at peace. And that just starts by identifying what type of problem we're dealing with. So to solve a problem, we must first accept the problem. We then need to take control of our fight or flight response. Next, we need to identify what type of problem we're dealing with. Remember, there are 3 types of problem grouped into 2 categories: peacetime and wartime. Enjoy the peace, but prepare for war. Great. Now for step 3, we have to focus. I follow this sport called Formula One. It's incredible. These teams build vehicles that cost over $15 million. They're closer designed to a space shuttle than a car. They put teenagers who don't even have a fully formed frontal cortex yet in the driver's seat, and they trust these guys to drive these machines over 220 miles an hour, inches from the wall and other drivers, while withstanding G-forces in excess of 8 times gravity. It's insane. But every driver at this level started by first mastering Formula 2, 3, and 4. And one of the first things they teach you while driving go-karts as a little kid is to focus on what you want, not what you don't want. Because when you're driving over 220 miles an hour and you focus on the wall, guys, guess where you're going to end up? So the next time we're confronted with a problem, we must actively and consciously focus on the only 2 things that matter: what we want and what's in our control. Because remember, your brain is not designed to make you happy. It's designed to keep you alive. And if you're investing any energy into worrying about something outside of your control, well, guys, that's like trying to control the weather. So instead of focusing on the problem, we must focus on the road and where we want to go. Because our focus gives us the mental horsepower to solve any problem with a smile. And here's how that works. When a friend comes to you with a problem, 9 times out of 10, that answer is pretty obvious to you, isn't it? But why? Why is it easy for you to see through the woods when they're stuck in the weeds? I mean, simply, it's because you're not part of the problem. You can see it from a calm state of mind. So we need to treat ourselves the same way, using a powerful concept called self-distancing. After we put our chimp brain in the corner and identify what type of problem we're dealing with, we can focus on the only 2 things that matter. As a reminder, that's what we want and what's in our control. And from that state of mind, we can talk to ourselves as if we're talking to a friend about a problem that is not ours. And that is how we leverage our focus. So let's quickly recap. Step one, we need to remain calm under pressure by accepting the problem. Step two, we need to then identify what type of problem we're dealing with. Step three, we must focus on the only two things that matter, what we want and what's in our control. Finally, we must attack the problem. Please, guys, throw an emoji in the comments if you are the chief problem solver in your company today. If there's a problem, your team comes to you first. Throw an emoji in the comments. Are you the chief problem solver? Come on, guys, you get out what you put into this. Great. Why do we tolerate this? Most business owners are far too accepting of someone else's problem. Consider this analogy. Let's replace the word problem with monkey, because they're both nouns and I need to prove a point here. If you have a problem, that's your monkey. If someone else has a problem, well, that's their monkey. Now, using this language, if your team member brought you their monkey and it started shitting on your desk, would you be okay with that? No. So why do we allow our team to bring us their problems? Likely, it's because we've trained them to do so. You are the man or the woman with all the answers, right? So how do we break this pattern? Well, we need to stop the insanity. If I had to guess, most of you likely have solved a problem in the past, only to run into that same problem a few weeks or months later, right? Yeah, that used to literally drive me insane. I don't mind problems. I just want higher quality problems. If you bring me the same problem twice, well, guys, it's a pretty low quality problem. So first, we need to stop the bleeding. We need to fix problems permanently. And we do this by following a simple two-step process. First, we need to put out the immediate fire. We need to solve the surface level problem. For peacetime problems, you can typically implement a solution over a few minutes, hours, or days. For wartime problems, guys, we just need to take the first step towards a solution. If you are facing an extinction level event, do not expect to be able to solve that quickly. Next, we need to go deep. We need to take the time to ensure this problem never sees the light of day again. We do this by asking questions like, how did this happen? Why did this happen? Is this a bigger problem? Could this be impacting others? How can we prevent this from happening again? Most people are great at extinguishing surface level problems. It requires time and attention to go deeper. But if you skip this step, well, get ready for more low quality problems. If you do not follow Dan Martell on social media, Instagram, whatever, I highly recommend going to read his book, Buy Back Your Time. One of the principles he teaches in this book is the 1-3-1 rule. This is something we teach every team member during onboarding here at Base Coat Marketing. Because to be on my team, you can only come to me with solutions, not monkeys. And here's what this looks like in practice. When a problem arises, our team is required to find the root of the problem. For instance, the problem isn't that tasks are behind schedule. The problem is that John is not doing his damn job. A problem well stated is a problem half solved. Next, our team must come up with 3 solutions to solve this problem. Because 1 isn't a solution, 2 is only a choice, but 3, well, 3 provides us with options. Finally, to ensure they have done the research and they didn't just pull this out of their ass or chat GPT, they are required to pick 1 recommended solution. Because if we select that recommendation, they're responsible for the outcome. This simple rule creates a culture of accountability and problem solvers. Go train your team on this today. Now, to help you all better understand these concepts, let's bring this together, but in a visual way. So for those of you who are tuning in, take a look at your screen. This little green dot here, that represents you. These little blue dots, these are normal problems that you have already solved. And this is your sphere of problem-solving capabilities. This is all you've ever known. This is your known universe. But then this happens. An abnormal problem comes along. It feels big and scary. But again, guys, it's just something you haven't seen before. And more than likely, This problem is not unique to you. We're just not that special. But what happens when everything goes wrong all at once? This is when things get scary. When we're juggling more than one abnormal problem at a time, it makes your head spin. It makes you feel like you're stranded on an island and you're all alone. The world is on fire and you're okay if it burns. How do we overcome this? Well, I want to give you guys one more tool for attacking problems when you're facing multiple problems from multiple fronts all at once. We're going to cool things down a little bit using the ICE scoring method. And guys, know the acronym, the I here in this acronym does not stand for immigration. It stands for impact, confidence, and ease. And this is an extremely subjective way to prioritize tasks, but it's effective and it's quick. Here's how this works. First, we're going to list out all of our problems. I use a spreadsheet for this. Next, we're going to rate these problems based on how much impact this has on our life or business. 1 is a normal problem. 10 is an extinction level event. Next, we're going to rate how confident we are that this problem holds that much weight. 1 is a complete guess. We have no idea. 10 is we are 100% certain. Next, we are going to rate how easy it is or how much time it's going to take to overcome this problem. 1 is a wartime problem with no end in sight. 10 is a peacetime problem you can delegate to the team. Finally, we're going to multiply these numbers together and sort to prioritize. The larger the number, the more focus you give that problem. I typically recommend drawing a line at problem 2 or 3. You typically cannot solve more than 2 to 3 problems in a day. That's how we avoid overwhelm. And once we prioritize and overcome these challenges, well, we've increased our sphere of problem-solving capabilities. And those abnormal problems, they start feeling a little bit more like normal problems. And look, I'm confident all of you have gone through this before. Think back to a time when you first started your business. What type of problems did you have back then that felt overwhelming at the time? I bet you would trade those problems for your current problems today, right? Because you now know how to solve those problems without breaking a sweat. This is proof that you expand your sphere every time you solve a new problem. But inevitably, this happens. A monstrous wartime problem will come along. A team member was caught embezzling money. A family member dies unexpectedly. How do we approach this? Step 1, we need to remain calm under pressure by accepting the problem. Step 2, we need to identify what type of problem we're dealing with. Step 3, we need to focus on what we want and what's in our control. Nothing else matters. Step 4, we must attack the problem by first extinguishing the fire, then go deep to solve the problem at its roots. We must create a culture of accountability, lead with solutions, and prioritize problems to avoid overwhelm and burnout. Now, just to illustrate how powerful these concepts are, comparison is the thief of joy. But if you were to compare yourself to someone else, pick your definition of success: freedom, wealth, power, fame. The only difference between them and you is they have simply solved more problems and likely bigger problems than you have. And they did it with a smile. And that is how we make work look like work, but feel like play. And look, guys, here's the truth. Problems are all but guaranteed. But this is not something we control, so we don't focus on that. But what we can control is how we react to these problems. You're still going to fail. That shit is still going to hurt. And that's okay. Because success is not measured by what we accomplish. It's measured by what we overcome. And remember, even on our darkest days, when we are confronted with an overwhelming level of uncertainty, where we're struggling to even accept the fact that we have a problem, remind yourself, this isn't forever. It's just for now. And when you truly embrace and practice the art of problem solving, I promise your story becomes an adventure you get excited to write. Now, you all know what to do. So if you want to bring more certainty into your life and business, go do what you know. And listen, if you're ready to test out your problem solving capabilities, our team of problem solvers here at Base Coat Marketing created a free 10-question growth assessment to evaluate how well your business ranks on both AI and Google. It scans for over 62 actionable ranking factors and provides you with a customized set of solutions. Again, we're leading with problems here to solve every problem it identifies, and it's completely free. Simply go to growth.basecoatmarketing.com, scan the QR code here. Again, that's growth.basecoatmarketing.com. 10-question, 30-second personalized growth assessment. I wish you guys all nothing but success. Tanner, thank you for allowing me to serve your audience today, brother.
Man, dude, you nailed it, dude. That was so good. And man, we can always use a little extra mindset in hearing your story each time, man. It's inspiring, and I think we've all thought about scenarios and can't imagine what you went through, but it looks like it served you very well in how you conduct your life and business today. Thank you, brother.
Thanks, dude. Cheers,
Man,
guys.